If you're not out there talking to folks, they do not see you. They're going to think you're not doing anything, even if you're doing everything right. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. That was really interesting and in a very challenging situation. Our next speaker is Carole Baker. She's president and CEO of the Texas Water Foundation in Austin. She was governmental director for the Harris-Galveston Coastal Subsidence District for about 20 years and has spent many hours in the Texas legislature working on bills. Some of the nights I've been with her till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. They were trying to outdo us, but they don't know. She's the ever-ready bunny, and in my opinion, she's water conservation queen of Texas. Join me in welcoming Carole Baker.
I'll try to be good. Testing. I cannot tell y'all how thankful I am that I moved 15 years ago to Austin because I was living on Clear Creek in Friendswood, and the house that I had lived in for a long time, and we'd flirted with flooding, but it never happened, did have 4 feet of water in it. It's just, I didn't own it anymore. So, but I had a lot of friends that are still devastated from everything. So this morning I got up and thought, I was trying to see, he asked me about speaking, and he said, why don't you just talk about some hot topics? Well, that gave me all kinds of things I could think of that we might could talk about, but I really thought I'd script myself this time so I would stay on the path, and it's this morning I got up and got ready, and I thought, okay, I'm going to go over my notes. I had no notes. I hadn't brought them with me, so we're just going to wing this a little bit, and we'll talk about some things that are hot topics. One of them is the Cape Town situation in South Africa, and I'm going to bring that up because it's a good lesson learned. So Cape Town is the first major city to actually run out of water. And we talk about during our drought, and I know how it hurts ag, but I mean, at the end of the day, Texas is not going to run out of water. We're going to figure it out. But Cape Town didn't look at any kind of conservation measures over the years. And I was there almost 3 years ago, and the people at the hotel and people we talked to when they knew what I did really, talked about the fact then that they were going through a drought. And so, we talked to them about, is your utility, are they looking at any conservation measures, for industry and for the homes? And no, they didn't think they needed to do that. Well, on May 1st this year, they're going to run out of water. They don't have any water. They don't have any way to get any water. They're frantically running around trying to get a desal plant built. Well, that ain't good. So if you're planning on vacationing in Cape Town, you might want to wait just a few years because that's what it's going to take. But they had, at one point back in 1990, 2 million people in Cape Town. It's now grown to 4 million people, and in the next 2 years, they're expecting another 200,000, although some of those may rethink their plan at this point. Their residents are down to 13 gallons a day, and they have to go to town to get that right now. And so it's just that idea of, and the planners there can't even still think about using water efficiency and comparing the cost of that to actually having to build the desal plant and everything else they're going to have to do. Cape Town's a beautiful spot. And I have children living in Botswana, my daughter and her family, and they've been there for 30-some-odd years, and they live up in northern Botswana. They get their water from Angola. When it rains in Angola, the water comes down into the Kalahari Desert and makes the Okavango Delta. And they have periodically now been through floods and droughts like we all go through. But when their droughts come, they can't go turn their faucet on. Most of them don't have a faucet. And the kids have a school there and an orphanage. And so several months ago, they were completely out of water. They decided that the city thought they could pipe some out to the school, and their way of doing infrastructure was to lay the pipe on the ground on the side of the road and get it out there. So those are not circumstances that are real foreign to us. We've seen a lot of those things as well. In May, people are going to turn on their faucets and there's no water. Thank goodness here in Texas, we've done a much better job of looking down the road. I mean, so many of us that have worked on these issues for the last almost 30 years now have been pushing the agenda about conservation. Through the years, it's been kind of baby steps to get things going, but I think at this point, at least in the Panhandle in West Texas, y'all are my favorite place to come outside of Austin and the San Antonio corridor, because I told someone this morning, y'all pay attention to water issues. You think about how it's going to affect you. When down south, there's a lot of us that just take a lot of it for granted, but I think across the state, we've implemented some rules on getting water conservation planning going, and certainly the Water Development Board having gotten the SWIFT funding, the fact that we got 20% of that to go to conservation and reuse, we have been thinking ahead, and instead of we have to build projects eventually, but a lot of times those can be deferred if we're actually valuing our water, which we have a problem with in a lot of areas that we don't always value it like we do our cell phones and other things. And it's not been unusual through the years that energy efficiency is one of the things that gets a lot of attention. It's sexier. It has more money to spend on things. And so, but we're just going to keep plugging along so we do not get in a situation like Cape Town is. I threw a couple of pictures in here for you. So this was 2.5 years ago, and this is what Cape Town looks like. It's on the ocean. There's water everywhere, and but there's not a drop to drink right now. So it's just a huge major city. Some of the same problems are happening in Brazil and Bangalore and some of these other places because of the exploding population growth. When here in Texas, we know ours is going to explode. We're going to have a lot of population growth, more building, and so. But I think for the most part, we're addressing that pretty well, and I'm really happy about that. This has been in Cape Town years with an S, long droughts. And they had plenty of time to get ready for it. I mean, I know 2011, 2012, we were in the drought, but I think we saw that coming and it was predicted and we were able to deal with a lot of it. They just turned a blind eye to it. So we're hopeful for them that they figure out something sooner than later, because they have it's kind of interesting that 69% of the water used in Cape Town is for the city. Only 28% is for ag, which are, let's see where I'm at, 28%. And then 7% in the suburbs. Well, the suburbs around Cape Town are, most of those people don't have any infrastructure or water or anything. So, but that's kind of their breakdown on it. So their biggest bang for the buck is probably not going to be ag. It's going to be their city's use. So we could think about those and think about how that could happen. This is a fancy modern city, and with that exploding growth. I talked to my daughter a couple of days ago, and she had been down there, and she said that people are really scared. You know, you've got people living in million-dollar homes on the mountainside and looking out over the water, and they don't know what they're going to do, and they're not getting. Like Jeff said, communication is a really good thing, and they don't have a lot of communication going on there. But in Texas, we have some good news. Okay. The Texas Water Foundation, we've been around for a long time, and our mission really is to educate and create awareness and work on water issues and network. But one of the things that we did, and it's coming out in a couple of weeks, was a study that I had been wanting to do for a long time. I've been part of the National Alliance for Water Efficiency. I had been chair of their board we started that 11 years ago, and we were asked at the beginning of that by the Obama administration as they were going in and looking at stimulus funding, had we ever looked at how water conservation could create jobs? Have we looked at it as an economic engine? I mean, we know water is, but just looking at it specifically that way, something we could actually put our finger on and point to. And so we did that study nationally, and it was tremendous figures. Thinking of things that you do with conservation that maybe I had never thought about. Where would those jobs be? And so this time they updated it this past year, went through again, and Texas and California, as always, neck and neck, were the two highest potential states for job creation through water conservation, water efficiency programs. And so I asked them if they would just pull out Texas. I had been wanting to do this and hadn't been able to get money to do it before, but would they pull out Texas and we could have a study that says, okay, Texas, here's where jobs can be created through water conservation. Here's the economic benefits, and in fact, based on $2 billion worth of investment in water conservation would result in $2.6 billion in state output, and it would support about 17,000 to 18,000 jobs. And the corresponding increase in state value added would be 1.6. So there was a good argument to be made, and so I'm really anxious for that to come out. We think that would reduce, if we implemented a lot of those programs, statewide water use would be 300 to 400 million gallons per day, and with water savings that would endure for about 10 years. So that would roughly be enough water to serve 1.2 to 1.6 million single-family homes in Texas for 10 years. That's just implementing efficient technology, behavior changes, and a lot of things. So we'll have that up on our website, which is texaswater.org, and you might want to take a look at it. I'm hoping that that's kind of a good tool to take to the legislature and say, could we, sure, conservation's a good thing, and we believe in it, we're going to be doing it, but could we look at it not just as that natural resource issue, but look at it instead as a really economic issue? And so I think we'll have some good data to show that. So that's coming out. That was my number 2 topic here. And then, no, sorry. This is why I don't ever do slides. I'm going to mess up. Okay. 2 things we're working on, and y'all may think this doesn't have anything to do with you, but the Water Sense program at EPA is what all of our Texas plumbing fixtures bills are based on. That's a voluntary program at EPA. It's in a lot of danger right now of being zeroed out, and so, as is Energy Star, which has been fantastically successful and has been in the budget, and they get about $50 million a year. WaterSense gets $2 million, but over the last 10 years, it is the acceptance from the irrigators, the manufacturers, the cities, it's just a tremendous program, and which has actually saved 1.5 trillion gallons of water through all of the technology. And all of the technology is about 20% reduced amounts from the current, which we did get new standards back in the early 90s. Texas and California were the only two states that got plumbing fixtures, and we all had the issue with the toilets, but that all went away. And back several sessions back, the legislature actually agreed to base the standards on WaterSense. We think it's an important program. We need help. We need letters. I have information if anybody would want to sign on. We have several hundred signatures on petitions from all of the plumbing industry just changed everything to really supply these kinds of products. The irrigation industry has. So all of those people, nobody wants this program to go away. We would like for it to be in the budget like Energy Star, although we don't know what's going to survive or anything, but it's with the savings, and we've been fighting for several years to keep it authorized or to get it authorized, but right now we're just struggling to keep it in place. And Texas has a stake in that because we're our laws, California's and Georgia's, all of our standards are based on the standards at WaterSense. So some of you who belong to the Alliance probably have seen kind of the pleas coming through to take a look at that. And we appreciate any help on it. So just wanted to put that on your radar. And then one other issue that we're working on in Washington is, and I don't know how many of you in here give out rebates for different things. I know there's some cities who do. So just so you know, right now, if you get a rebate from the utility, if it's over $600, you are going to get a 1099 that says you owe some taxes on that. It's treated like income. That's for water. Energy is tax exempt from that. It's the same thing, energy efficiency, but that's a tax exempt thing. So we've been working for 2 or 3 years on trying to get, especially for folks here in Texas, if you do a landscape turnout or just anything you do in the way, if it doesn't amount to 600, you're fine. But Texas is so important on this issue because right now California's been the one driving it. It's all the Democrats from California. And of course, the reason we want to have our own bandwagon, I guess, is because Kevin Brady is the chairman of Ways and Means, and of course he's from Houston. And if anybody knows him or has any contact, I mean, we've been up there and talked to him. Other people have been. He seems to think it's an easy thing, but it's kind of a shame that the easy things that make good sense kind of get pushed to the back. So that's just another thing that we're working on in the water conservation world. So I wanted to just comment on another issue. Have many of you heard about the One Water issue here? Okay, well, I'm just going to introduce you to this because I don't know. I know enough to be dangerous, so you can't ask me any questions about it, but I can give you a website to look at. It's part of it that that I took out to talk about. Several foundations have gotten together, and this is happening across the country. But they say it's not going to be easy, but if anyone can do it, Texas can do it. We'll see. But it's the, let's see. Sorry, let me pass on. They did that. Okay. So this is what this looks like, and you could go on the website and see. It's going to be, according to them, painstakingly and challenging issues for our communities, but you're going to hear about it. So this is just one of the things that I wanted to put on your radar and let you know about. Keep your eye on it and see. But the Mitchell Foundation is really working on it, and you know, Austin's developing a 100-year plan right now, integrated water resource plan with conservation built into that. Conservation ought to be built into anybody's integrated water plan. We haven't always looked at conservation as being a water supply or conserved water, but it is. When Chairman Lord gets up here, he's going to talk about some of those things. And I mean, if the state water plan is saying we're going to get 30% plus of our water, and that's going to keep going up from conservation, then we have to be more aggressive about figuring out how that's going to happen, what kind of programs. And for all the people who are in regional planning groups, it's really important that as the regional planning groups are developing the next plans, that they actually get projects in there so that they can access that 20% of funding for some of those programs. And I mean, in order to do that, when you're doing your water planning, we can't just say we're going to get it from here or we're going to get it from this imaginary place. It's just to make the numbers work. So I think that's one of the things that they're looking at. And I appreciate so much the board's new structure and how they've gotten very aggressive about getting out into the communities. I know Peter has, and Kathleen Jackson. And of course, Beck was out before he decided to become a politician on us. But I think we just can't drop the ball. We've just got to keep it going. We've got to keep the conversation about it at a high level. And I know the board wants to use that money for a lot of programs, but it does need to be tied to the regional planning. There's some exceptions and wiggle room to do some things, but I hope y'all are looking at that. I hope we never have a headline like Cape Town has had. It's really disturbing to see that happening. And when I'm in Botswana, there's many times when there's no water and no energy either. It's not a given. So when my daughter asked me to come to her school and talk about water conservation, it's a little mind-boggling because they mostly use 5 gallons a day. So I asked her what should we cut their per capita use down to? And so when I went in to talk to this environmental class, they talked about what they did to save water. And they hardly have any water, but they save water. So I told them I wasn't going to teach them anything. They needed to teach me something about what kind of message could I bring back here to kids about saving water. And so, because I said that 5-gallon container right there that you use all day, we use about 10 or 20 of those. And so they were laughing. They said, oh, Mama Ruti's mother, she's just teasing us. And I said, nope, I'm really not. And so interesting suggestions from them about how to do that. And so I guess I'll close with that, let y'all have a break. And if you have any questions, I'll be around all day. There's more hot topics and things to talk about in the conservation world, so I'll just point you to our website and also to the Alliance for Water Efficiency's website. Tons of resources there. And I wanted tell you about one other thing. We've been doing a film contest. The Water Foundation has for the last 3 years. It's been a lot of fun. It's Tell Us Your Texas Water Story. And the film director, Rick Linklater, is the one who judges the films. And so if you have any aspiring filmmakers or YouTube, whatever, they're short films, but we just want them to talk about the Water Texas story. Because Rick is the one judging them, we do get some fun ones from some of the folks, and so it's been an experience to do that. But you can click on our website and get that, or you can go to Water Texas Films, and so we've opened the contest early this year. You got all the way to September before they'd have to be turned in. There are cash prizes, and so it's just, for me, it's just a way to, and they're not all young people that do them, but for young people especially, to stop and think about water. My grandson, who is a filmmaker and an actor, he didn't do one the first 2 years because he couldn't think what he might do with that. He did this time, and so I didn't get to judge him this time, but it's just a way to get kids